There is a town in America where it is illegal to die. Another where the entire population lives inside a single building. And one that appeared on no map for 7 years, while over 75,000 people lived there. What you are about to hear is not folklore. These are real places on real maps, with real people living inside systems so strange that journalists and federal courts have struggled to explain them. And the reason this matters, the reason you should care, is that these towns reveal something about America that the history books consistently leave out. One town on this list passed a law so bizarre, it ended up in a federal court filing. We are saving it for last. Because once you hear it, everything else on this list will feel almost reasonable. Number 20. Centralia, Pennsylvania. The ground beneath this town has been on fire since 1962. Not metaphorically, literally. A coal seam ignited during a routine cleanup operation and has never stopped burning. The census now records fewer than 5 permanent residents. In 1981, a 12-year-old boy nearly fell into a sinkhole that opened beneath his feet, 60 feet deep, radiating heat from below. The U.S. Postal Service revoked the zip code in 2002. Centralia earns this spot because it is a town being consumed from the inside out, in slow motion, in real time. Number 19. Halfway, Oregon. In the year 2000, this town of roughly 350 people renamed itself Half.com, Oregon, in exchange for computers, cash, and national press coverage from a .com startup. It became the first and only American municipality to rename itself after a website. 1 year later, the company was acquired by eBay. The deal dissolved, and the town quietly took its name back. What remains is a story about how desperate small-town economics can look when the options run out. Number 18. Whittier, Alaska. Nearly all 200 residents here live in one building. Biggich Towers, a 14-story concrete structure originally built by the U.S. Army, contains a school, a church, a medical clinic, a grocery store, and a police station. In winter, residents can go weeks without stepping outside. There is a tunnel connecting the building to the outside world. Whittier is less a town than a vertical civilization, sealed against one of the most brutal climates on the continent. Number 17. Monowi, Nebraska. Population 1. Elsie Eiler is the mayor, the bartender, the librarian, and the only taxpayer. She issues her own annual liquor license to herself. Monowi once had over 150 residents. The collapse happened gradually, over decades, as agricultural economics hollowed out the rural Midwest. What Monowi looks like today is what dozens of similar towns will look like within a generation. Number 16. Ismay, Montana. In 1993, fewer than 30 residents voted to rename their town Joe, Montana, in honor of the NFL quarterback whose Kansas City Chiefs were heading to the Super Bowl. The name was never fully legalized. The Chiefs lost. The town reverted. Today, Ismay has a post office, a grain elevator, and a roadside marker commemorating one of the most elaborate sports-related municipal gestures in American history. Number 15. Cogar, Oklahoma. For a concentrated period in the 1970s, this town of around 200 people logged one of the highest per capita rates of reported UFO sightings in the country, according to civilian tracking records and local law enforcement logs from that period. State investigators were dispatched on 2 separate occasions. No official explanation was ever released. The files were closed. Not resolved. Closed. Number 14. Lost Springs, Wyoming. Population 4. In 1990, the census recorded a population of 1, and the town briefly became national news. A modest resurgence followed. Today, Lost Springs covers several square miles of open high plains, has no functioning commercial business, and maintains a mayor. It exists on official maps largely because the administrative cost of removing it exceeds any practical reason to do so. Number 13. Matewan, West Virginia. In May 1920, a gun battle between coal miners, private company detectives, and local police left 10 people dead in the streets of this small Appalachian town. It helped ignite a broader armed labor uprising known as the Mine Wars, one of the largest armed insurrections on American soil since the Civil War. Recent census surveys record unemployment in Matewan exceeding 30%. The violence of a century ago and the poverty of today are not separate stories. They are the same story, unfinished. Number 12. Gibsonton, Florida. For decades, Gibsonton was the official winter home of American carnival workers. Local zoning laws were specifically amended to permit elephants, rides, and circus equipment on residential property. A giant named Altomani and his wife Jeannie, billed as the half-woman, ran the local bait shop for years. The International Independent Showmen's Association remains headquartered here. Gibsonton is a community built entirely around a way of life that is slowly disappearing, and it has no plan for what comes after. Number 11. Buford, Wyoming. In 2012, this town, population 1, was sold on eBay for $900,000. The buyer was a Vietnamese entrepreneur who renamed it Phin Deli Town after his coffee brand. At its height, Buford had 2,000 residents and was a critical stop on the Transcontinental Railroad. By the time it sold, it consisted of a single gas station and a house. It is, to date, the only American town known to have been purchased by a foreign national through an internet auction. We are halfway through this list, and what is still coming is measurably stranger than anything covered so far. The towns ahead involve federal secrecy, a law that governs death itself, and a community that has spent 40 years refusing to legally exist. Number 10. Helen, Georgia. In 1969, a dying lumber town in the Blue Ridge Mountains voted to become a Bavarian alpine village. The architecture was redesigned. Lederhosen was adopted. Bratwurst replaced local cuisine on menus. There was no German heritage in Helen's history. A local artist drew a sketch, the town council approved it, and the transformation began. Today, Helen draws over 1 million tourists annually. It is an invented identity that saved a real town, and has never once looked back. Number 9. Dinosaur, Colorado. Every street in this town of roughly 300 people carries a prehistoric name. Stegosaurus Freeway, Brontosaurus Boulevard, Triceratops Terrace. The naming system was formalized by local ordinance in 1966 to align the town's identity with the nearby Dinosaur National Monument. Annual municipal budget sits under $300,000 by public record. Dinosaur made a complete, permanent commitment to a single theme and has honored it without exception for nearly 60 years. Number 8. Boring, Oregon. Named after a settler, William H. Boring, this town of around 8,000 has built an entire civic identity around its own name. It is officially twinned with Dull, Scotland, and Bland, Australia, forming what the three communities call an international alliance of inauspiciously named places. Local businesses use the name on everything. What is genuinely not boring about Boring is that this self-aware branding has made it economically more stable than most comparable Oregon towns of its size. Number 7. Intercourse, Pennsylvania. Founded in 1754 in Lancaster County, the name derives from an archaic usage of the word, meaning crossroads or exchange. That historical footnote has not reduced the volume of visitors who arrive each year specifically to photograph the town sign. Intercourse is a functioning Amish and Mennonite community with a median household income near the national average. It has operated, thrived, and maintained its name for nearly 3 centuries, entirely indifferent to the reaction it produces. Number 6. Congress, Arizona. Built around what was once the most productive gold mine in Arizona history, Congress nearly vanished when the mine closed. What remains today is a community of off-grid residents, retirees, and people who have made a deliberate decision to remove themselves from conventional American infrastructure. County data shows utility connection rates among the lowest per capita in the state. Congress is not a town that was abandoned. It is a town that was chosen by people who wanted to exist outside the system. Number 5. Estill Springs, Tennessee. This town of under 2,000 people entered state legislative debate when local ordinances were proposed and partially enacted, restricting specific behaviors on grounds that residents described as moral and spiritual. The measures were taken up by the Tennessee state legislature. With a poverty rate significantly above the state average, Estill Springs reflects a pattern seen across economically distressed small towns. When material conditions decline, cultural enforcement often rises to fill the space. Number 4. Ochoape, Florida. Ochoape is home to the smallest post office in the United States, a converted irrigation shed, 61 square feet, that is operated as an official USPS facility since 1953. The original post office burned down. The shed was the only structure available. One postmaster handles all operations. Ochoape sits at the edge of Big Cypress National Preserve, with a census population in the single digits. It is, by almost every measure, the minimum viable version of a functioning American town. Number 3. Oak Ridge, Tennessee. Oak Ridge did not exist on any public map from 1942 to 1949. The federal government built it in secret as part of the Manhattan Project. At its peak, over 75,000 people lived there, none of whom could tell family or friends where they were. Workers were assigned code names for their location. The enriched uranium used in the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima was produced here. Oak Ridge is proof that the U.S. government once built and operated a full city, somewhere in complete secrecy, for 7 years. Number 2. Sharpsville, North Carolina. Sharpsville does not appear in any county commission record as an incorporated municipality. It has no utility grid, no formal governance structure, and no legal recognition by the state. And it has rejected every offer of incorporation for over 4 decades. Residents here have, by consistent and documented choice, refused to be administered. What Sharpsville raises is not just a curiosity. It raises a legal question that no court has fully answered. At what point does a community's organized refusal to be governed become a form of government itself? Number 1. Longyear, Kentucky. Longyear passed a local ordinance making it illegal to die within the town's commercial district during business hours. The ordinance, modeled loosely on a similar law in a French village, was applied in a functioning American municipality, creating jurisdictional confusion significant enough to appear in a related federal district court filing. Population under 400, median income roughly half the Kentucky state average. Longyear is not famous. It is not a tourist destination. It is a town so legally strange that it quietly unsettled the paperwork of American death, and almost nobody noticed. These 20 towns are not accidents. They are not jokes. They are what happens at the edges of a country this large, this complicated, and this old. When systems break down, when people adapt, and when the rules stop applying. The question worth sitting with is not why these places exist. The question is how many more of them are out there, on maps you have never thought to look at. Drop a comment telling us which state you want us to go into next. We read all of them. And subscribe, because what we are covering next will make this list look like a warm-up.